A dying king lies in a darkened palace, his breath shallow, his eyes burning with fever. Around him, the greatest empire the world has ever seen teeters on the edge of chaos. His generals, men who have marched with him from the burning sands of Egypt to the icy mountains of India, wait in silence, desperate for a single word. Who will inherit the world? Alexander the Great, the man who conquered nations and rewrote the map, is about to take his last breath. But as the torches flicker and the air grows heavy, a final secret lingers, one that could unravel everything we think we know about his empire. What did Alexander whisper in his final moments? And why has the truth remained hidden for over 2,000 years? This is not just the story of a conqueror. It's the story of a dream, one so vast, so audacious that it threatened to swallow the world whole. But dreams, like empires, are fragile things. And sometimes the greatest mysteries are buried not in the ruins of cities, but in the hearts of men. Let's go back, not to the beginning, but to the end. Babylon, semi-Arsursun BCE. The city is a furnace of ambition and fear. Alexander, just 32, is dying. His body, once invincible, is now racked by pain. Some say it was poison. Others, a fever. But all agree on one thing: the world is about to change forever. His generals, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Perdiccas, Antipater, stand in the shadows, each one calculating, each one hungry. They have followed Alexander across deserts and rivers, through blood and glory. But now, as the king slips away, their loyalty fractures. They want answers. They want power. And above all, they want to know who will rule after Alexander. The legend says that with his final breath, Alexander was asked, "To whom do you leave your empire?" His answer whispered through cracked lips, "To the strongest." Or was it? Some ancient sources claim he said something else, something far more dangerous, that he left his empire to the best. Or perhaps that he left it to the worthy. The words are slippery, shifting with every retelling. But why does it matter? Because in that moment, Alexander's empire became a riddle, a puzzle that would tear the world apart. But what if the real secret wasn't in what Alexander said, but in what he didn't say? What if the greatest conqueror in history never intended for his empire to survive him at all? To understand the secret, we have to understand the man. Alexander was not just a warrior. He was a philosopher king, raised on the stories of Achilles and tutored by Aristotle himself. He believed in the power of ideas, of blending East and West, of forging a new world from the ashes of the old. In Egypt, he declared himself a god. In Persia, he married a local princess. In India, he adopted the customs of his enemies. Every step, every conquest was a step towards something bigger, a fusion of cultures, a new kind of empire. But this vision was dangerous. To his Macedonian generals, Alexander's dream was heresy. They saw themselves as conquerors, not unifiers. They wanted gold, not philosophy. They wanted to rule, not to blend. And as Alexander's health failed, the cracks in his empire widened. In the feverish days before his death, Alexander summoned his generals. He gave them rings, symbols of trust, or perhaps of warning. He spoke of plans for new campaigns, new cities, new wonders, but he never named a single heir. Was this an oversight? Or a final, deliberate act? Imagine the tension in that room, the air thick with sweat and suspicion, the greatest minds and warriors of the age, all waiting for a sign. But Alexander, the master of strategy, gives them only silence, a silence that would echo for centuries. After his death, the empire exploded. The wars of the successors, brother against brother, friend against friend. The dream of unity shattered, the world plunged into chaos. But in the chaos, something remarkable happened. Greek ideas, philosophy, art, science spread farther than ever before. Alexandria became a beacon of knowledge. The Library of Alexandria, the greatest collection of wisdom in the ancient world, was born from the ashes of Alexander's dream. Was this the secret? That Alexander's true legacy was not an empire of land, but an empire of the mind? That by refusing to name an heir, he ensured his ideas would outlive his body? That the chaos he left behind was not a failure but a catalyst, a spark that ignited a new age of discovery? Or was there something darker? Some say Alexander's silence was a curse, that he knew his empire could never survive him, that he wanted his generals to destroy each other, so that no one could ever wield his power again, that the greatest conqueror in history was, in the end, the architect of his own destruction. But perhaps the truth is more complicated. Perhaps Alexander understood something that even his closest followers could not, that empires built on force crumble, but empires built on ideas endure. As the dust settled, the world was changed forever. The Hellenistic age, an explosion of art, science, and philosophy. The birth of new cities, new gods, new ways of thinking. The seeds of democracy, drama, and myth scattered across continents. All because one man refused to give a simple answer. But let's not forget the human cost. The wars that followed Alexander's death were brutal. Old friends became bitter enemies. The land was soaked in blood. The dream of a united world seemed lost forever. Yet in the ashes, something new was born. The Greek language became the language of science and philosophy, from Egypt to India. The works of Aristotle, Euclid, and Archimedes traveled farther than any army. The very idea of what it meant to be civilized was transformed. And what of Alexander himself? Was he a visionary or a tyrant, a unifier or a destroyer? The truth is, he was all these things, and more. He was a man haunted by the shadow of his father, driven by the legends of heroes, and obsessed with the idea of immortality. He wanted to be remembered not just as a king, but as a god, not just as a conqueror, but as a creator. In the end, Alexander's greatest secret may be this, that he understood the power of myth. He knew that stories outlast empires, that ideas outlive kings, that the real measure of greatness is not in how much you conquer, but in how much you inspire. So what was Alexander the Great's last secret? Was it a whispered name lost to history? Or was it the silence itself? A challenge to the world to dream bigger, to think deeper, to build something that could never be conquered? In the end, the greatest mystery of Alexander's empire is not who ruled after him, but what he left behind. Not a kingdom of stone and gold, but a legacy of questions. Questions that still haunt us, still inspire us, still drive us to seek the truth. And maybe, just maybe, that was his plan all along. History is not just a record of what happened. It's a map of what could be. Alexander's last secret is not buried in a tomb or written in a lost scroll. It's alive in every idea that dares to cross a border, in every dream that refuses to die. So the next time you hear the name Alexander the Great, remember his greatest conquest was not of land, but of possibility. And the real secret of his empire? It's waiting for you to discover. What will you do with it? If you're ready to uncover more mysteries, more secrets, more stories that shaped our world, stay with us. the past is not finished with us yet?